Long time no time lapse. It's been a while since I made a YouTube video. There are multiple reasons for that, but mostly it's just been me not bothering to record any of my footage ever. But ultimately, this is fan art of Elise from League of Legends. I had multiple requests from a certain somebody, you know who you are, cough cough, you know who you are, on the League of Legends Amino, mind you, to draw Elise. So I decided to pick her most colorful skin, which to me would probably be this one, Blood Moon. I find her classic skin to be a little kind of boring, but yeah, enjoying this one significantly more. Now, I started out with my sketch as per usual, with the flat colors underneath and colored the lines and then merged it. That's how I always do it. I'm never gonna change that. At least I don't think I will. And then now I go in and start cleaning up the face, because the face is the easiest thing to do, of course, so that's what I start with. Mostly I just start by doing the eyes, nose, lips, etc. And I almost always use default brushes. Like for this, I'm using the oil brush, I believe is what it's called, to start blending in everything. And throughout this piece, you can tell that I'm mostly just sort of like, I don't know where this is going. It's like at the beginning of the drawing, I knew that I wanted to have a little bit of perspective. I wanted her hand reaching down and grabbing you. It's like, uh-oh, what's she gonna do with that mean old achy spider claw? She's probably gonna tickle you. You better run. And, which is completely inaccurate from how she is in-game, because whenever I see an Elise, I'm like, oh, cool snack. Unlike real life, whenever you see a spider, you run in fear and cower. But, yes. Now, I was trying to figure out at this stage which direction the eyes were going, and by the end of this, her eyes are completely different, which, oh my goodness, looking at it now, these are very, very derpy eyes. So glad that I know what I'm doing at all times. You know me, the very professional artiste. Nothing more, nothing less from good old me. And I just boosted the crap out of the colors right there, made everything super, super saturated, because that's how I like my pictures to look. I like super saturated colors, and I like them nice and clean. But I like to keep everything merged to one layer, as per usual. No, not too many. I don't like muddy looking pictures. I like to be colorful. I don't know what to say. I really don't. I haven't done one of these in so long that my brain, it doesn't work anymore. It doesn't work anymore. But, yeah, I've just been playing a lot of League lately, which is why I guess I haven't really been posting too many videos. Suppose I should work on that more. That was a New Year's resolution. And while most people like to give up on their resolutions, I think I stick pretty well to mine. Primarily, what I focused on in this picture was making sure that, like, that little bit of hand dynamicness was coming down towards you, which I don't even really bother with till the end of the picture, because I spend the most beginning of it just like rendering out the details. Like right now, I'm making sure that it has the rope texture, it has the metals rendered, and so on. But yeah, lately I've been wanting to focus on making sure that there are more backgrounds, or at least background details, in more of my works, because, you know, I really want to improve my work a lot this year, and I think I'm going to try to get closer to where I want to be. Someday I want to be able to make something sort of like what a League of Legends splash art looks like. That is a high bar to set for myself, but I think it's a goal if I work hard enough and if I keep to my motivations and whatnot. I have a goal set for myself, and I want to achieve it, and I think that's the primary objective right now artistically, is for me to learn more about composition and coloring and shading and whatnot. I suppose I need to learn anatomy a lot better. It's never really been too much of my strong suit, but admittedly, it's not really Riot Games' strong suit either. No, but Rito is cool. I like Riot Games. I think they're great artists. I think they hire a bunch of great, wonderful artists. League of Legends is probably one of the reasons that I've been pushing my art so much for myself in the past year or so. And in League of Legends relevancy to me, I was fortunate enough to be on I got my Zoe fan art featured on an episode of a Summoner Showcase recently, which I'm very, very, very happy and blessed to have gotten to be in, because I've always wanted to be in it. I used to watch Summoner Showcase when I was in probably sophomore year of high school, and I was like, you know what, it'd be awesome if one day I got to be on that. That would be the coolest. And I finally got to be on it, and I'm so happy. I suppose I'll link to that in the description, the episode that my artwork was in. It was just a little Zoe portrait, and the neck is apparently really, really bad, but whatever. It got in the show! Woo! Yeah, but lately I've been trying to find a happy medium between like a cartoony, more stylized rendering versus a more realistic rendering, and while I've never been a realism master, I certainly think that I could probably work harder on that. I've always leaned more towards cartoony. It's just always appealed to me more, but I would like to be great at both is what I would aspire to be. I want to be able to make super stylized cartoony portraits like in the Zoe Splash. I think that's a wonderful example, the Zoe Splash art, of just really good cartoon anatomy and shading with semi-realistic lighting. That is like art goals right there, you know? But I just think I've been a little too cartoony with my work, and it's kind of holding me back from learning more realism type stuff. So I'm gonna try to, this year I want to try to learn more like a fantasy illustration, like referencing Magic the Gathering cards and all that. And thinking about it now, I'm doing that exact thing that I told myself that I didn't want to do in these videos, which was just go on about random nonsense that's not horribly relevant to the picture instead of just describing what I do in the picture itself. When in actuality, whenever I try to describe what I do in the picture itself, it's just like, yeah, painting, yep. And it's so frustrating because I remember when I was starting to learn painting, I was like, why aren't they describing how you paint? How do you know how to paint? And it's just like, you just train yourself, dude. You just memorize and teach yourself lighting, and then you know it from the top of your head. But then you're just like, wait, how do they know that the lighting goes there and the lighting goes there? And it's just like, it's just study, it's just practice. But like late middle school, early high school me didn't know that, you know? She thought, oh man, they're just gods. They just magically know all this, and that's why they never tell us in their YouTube videos. They just show us them painting, but they never show us, not to imply I think I'm as good as any of the artists I respect, mind you, but I mean in the sense of like, when you're starting out painting, you never really know, well, maybe some people know, maybe some people are a lot smarter than me, but like when I was starting out painting, I wasn't really sure how they knew that lighting went where and whatnot. And it's just like, you train yourself. You just learn by studying others' art. You learn by studying pictures. You learn by studying, just looking at lighting in the real world, looking at it in other illustrations, etc. And that's how you learn it yourself. It's just, it's not really something you can explain to someone in a video. Although I've seen good examples of people doing that, explaining in videos. Like Istabrock, she's a wonderful artist. She explains like, okay, here's the highlight, here's where the shadow goes, etc. And then it's like you just apply that same concept to every single texture in different ways. Like some textures don't always apply to those. Sometimes there's two lighting, very good English. Sometimes there's two sources of light, there's two shadows, etc. Maybe the reflections aren't the same. But it's just a matter of going out and studying those materials on your own rather than acting as though you can learn that from someone else. I think most of painting is just teaching yourself what things look like and building sort of a mental library of all that sort of texture and whatnot. But it's like a thing I saw on Pinterest a while ago, and it said you can watch tutorials all day, but at the end of the day you're only going to improve by doing, because the problem with tutorials is that if you watch how someone else does it, then you won't be learning a different or maybe possibly a better way of doing it. Like sometimes there are tutorials that are just really bad, and sometimes there are tutorials that are really good, but they don't teach you everything and you have to fill in the blank for yourself. I think tutorials should be used as something to kickstart you or help you. Meanwhile, in the meantime, you figure out your own method yourself, rather than relying on that tutorial the entire time. I do want to note real quick that for most of this picture, I was kind of mentally referencing the art from a webcomic called Ava's Demon. I'm sure most people who are like in the webcomic or art interests have heard of it. It's a very, very beautifully illustrated webcomic. And I was thinking about the backgrounds in that, and that's what I was sort of trying to recreate in a sense with the background here, is sort of the abstract flowers and the webbing and the brushy blowy nonsense in the background there. But yeah, the metals on this I didn't really put too much care into, considering that the rest of the image sort of follows the same reflective nature as the metals. So the metals I sort of just are comparatively less contrasted to the rest of the picture than I would usually do. Usually I would make the metals super, super reflective, but since I wanted the entire picture to be super, super reflective, I tried to focus on making the metals not stand out as much as to not contrast with Elise herself, or maybe the flowers in the background, trying to draw her out and add to her. Another thing of note that I'd like to talk about is my use of the liquify tool. I typically use, I think I've used it in almost every single time lapse, and I think I aforementioned it in a different, I'm not going to call these episodes, these are not episodes, these are just individual videos. But in a different video, I suppose, I referenced that I am kind of over-reliant on the liquify tool, but I like to say that since that video, I think I've gotten a little bit better about using it. I think I only use it in very limited situations. I believe that the liquify tool should not be used to correct anything that you couldn't already do yourself. I think the liquify tool should be used to save time rather than to make up for lack of skill. Like, I could have, the problem, for example, I used the liquify tool on her hand up near her mouth earlier because I realized upon self-critiquing halfway through the video, oh hey, that hand's really, really, really big. I'm going to try to make it smaller. It would be, I could easily, not easily, but it would be time consuming, which is why I liquefied it which is why I liquefied it instead of going through the trouble of hand painting it over again. Get it hand painting because it's a hand. But it's why I use the liquify tool to correct simple mistakes that would just take too long to fix otherwise. And because Photoshop is really the only program I know of that does liquify, whenever I use a program like Metabang Paint, on occasion I will draw or doodle in Metabang Paint. If there's an issue in there, I just have to grit my teeth and go in and like, okay, well this hand is too big, guess I better redraw the hand, instead of just resizing it manually. I think tools should be used to save time and not make up for effort, which is what I think. But maybe that's a little naive. Maybe tools should be used however you want to use them. Who am I? I'm not the king of... I ain't the king of your Photoshop. You do whatever you want. Jump on a bridge. Jump on a rock. Eat a fish. Kill the fish before you eat it, please. Otherwise, that's animal cruelty. But, yeah. Back to the drawing. Here I'm finalizing the background, making sure that all these little pieces are at least cleaned. I wasn't too render heavy on this picture, I'd like to note. I did not take too much care in making sure that the lines are clean, which is another thing that kind of peeves me about my work, is that it's super painterly. I guess that's what the kids call it. Painterly looking without really being clean and rendered, which is why what I really admire about League of Legends splash arts. I want to be as clean and rendered as they are. Yet at the same time, I just don't know how to do that yet, and I'm going to try to teach myself. I'm going to try to learn how to do that more in depth. Overall, I think I'm still really happy with this picture though, considering how I like the colors, I like the perspective. I'm really happy with how much work I put into that. Thank you for watching. If you have any critiques on how I can fix this video, please tell me.